Hello and welcome back to EPT Season 11 in Barcelona. I'm right here with my good friend and colleague Donnie Peters to talk a little bit about today's action. Today we got the €50,000 EPT Super High Roller final table with a beautiful lineup. We're also going to discuss EPT 11 schedule and look back at our own first EPT experience in honor of EPT 100 right here in Barcelona. Donnie, let's start with yesterday's action. We played down to a final table, but it took quite a while. What was the action like yesterday?
The action was pretty fast and furious throughout the whole day. There was 49 players advanced from day one, and then there were 4 more players, 2 re-entered, 2 brand new players to come in, so it made for 53 total on day 2 to start. The players didn't back away from playing big pots, but then, as you got down towards the money, which was 11 players, things tightened up with around 17 players left. Then right before the dinner break, we lost 3 players, basically in one hand, boom, 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 across 2 different tables, and next thing you knew, we were down to 14, went on dinner break, and after that, it was the dinner break pause, as we call it, or the coma, as we call it. Players, they got back from dinner, they realized that, the money bubble is right there. Play tightened considerably. It took about 2 hours to reach the money from there, so it was good.
And we lost Tony Gregg on the bubble. Of course, if you want to lose a player on the bubble, it's always kind of like a sad situation, but Tony Gregg took it in stride.
He did take it in stride. He was all smiles the whole time. He was severely short. He shoved once or twice, didn't get called. But other than that, he's one of those guys where you would never realize that he was on a 50K super high roller bubble. He's always smiling, no matter what happens. If he gets his money in, good, bad, if he wins or loses, he's going to be happy about it.
And then today's final table, of course, Daniel Coleman is one of our main features. He won the big one for 1 drop. He won the EPT Monte Carlo Super High Roller. And yesterday, one big pot against Martin Jacobson basically catapulted him into today's final table.
Yeah, it put him right up with the leaders, if not in the chip lead at the time. He had raised under the gun, Daniel Coleman, and Martin Jacobson called from the big blind and then proceeded to lead all 3 streets with ace high. And the final barrel on the river was Martin was all in, and Coleman had flopped a set of 4s, and he kind of gave a look of disgust, but then quickly called anyway. It was one of those, I'm sorry, I have to call, I have a set, but I also could be beat type of things. And yeah, Martin just had ace high. I think it's interesting to think about how that hand will play into Martin's November 9 final table. I was wondering if he was thinking at the time, I'm on the feature table, I'm on the TV. Is this going to be viewed by my final table competitors in November as, when they get in pots with me, are they going to say, oh, he could have ace high here. He could just be barreling off with the bluff. It could work to his advantage if he's thinking like that. And, it was a play where it could have easily worked against Coleman. I mean, if Coleman doesn't have a set, it's going to be super, super hard for him to call. So I think it works both ways in those regards.
It's also pretty cool to think about the fact that Jacobson has never been all in during the main event. He's now at the final table. He only has 12 big blinds, but he has never been all in for his own tournament life. So maybe with putting in this kind of pressure, he has some multiple level thinking going on with regards to the final table in November. One of Coleman's best friends, I assume, is Olivier Basquet. He's at the final table just like he was in Monte Carlo during the Super High Roller, and he was also on the rail during the big one for 1 drop because he had a big piece. Those guys, they're just everywhere now, huh?
Yeah, they are. They are good friends. When Olivier Basquet originally was the high stakes sit and go specialist, heads up. Daniel Coleman kind of would sweat him, kind of talk to him and chat, and they became friends that way. And Basquet basically took him under his wing to train him up and bring him along and teach him how to play and whatnot. So they've become good friends over the years. Basquet, like you said, was there at 1 drop. He supported him through the whole no interview debacle that happened afterwards. And it is interesting that they're both here again. Basquet is doing very well. He's one of the bigger stacks. He got relatively short yesterday on day 2. Kind of at the beginning of the day, but then after some double ups and some big pots, he was a big stack throughout the rest of the day.
During the last Super High Roller on the EPT in Monte Carlo, the Macau guys were dominating for a very long time, and I believe 3 of them made the final table. This time in Barcelona, the story is completely different, but we have 3 very interesting characters at the top as well. Mr. Morten Klein from Norway, Vladimir Troyanovsky from Russia, and Sven Reichardt from Germany. Donnie, what can you tell me about these guys?
Well, Morten Klein won the live 5K satellite to this event, and interesting about him is that you would think for a satellite winner he would be a little bit more apprehensive about playing in such a big buy-in tournament. The guy showed up yesterday at 11:45, 2 beers in hand. He had 2 beers in hand, the entire tournament. Towards the end of the night, when he got the chip lead, he was taking shots of wine. People were feeding him alcohol. He was, at one point, he licked the chip and stuck it to his forehead. I mean, the guy was having a ball. He had a lot of friendly banter going on, particularly with Scott Seaver. Olivier Busquet was on his right, and it looked like Olivier was getting a little bit annoyed with him just because things weren't going Olivier's way. And when things aren't going your way and you're deep in the tournament, and particularly you're on a bubble and there's a lot of money on the line and somebody's being so crazy and, you know, outgoing and just, you know, doesn't really care about things, it's kind of can rub you the wrong way. So that's understandable. Vladimir Troyanovsky is, he's been on the poker scene for a good amount of time now, but he's not one of those guys that puts in, you know, a ton of high volume. He plays a lot of the big buy-in events. He plays a lot at the World Series. But yeah, he finished runner-up to Vanessa Selbst at the 2013 PCA High Roller, the 25K High Roller, so that was kind of his big breakout. But he's still looking to notch, you know, that one big, you know, breakout win that's really going to put him over the top and put him on the scene. And then Sven Rijkaard, we really don't know much about at all.
He's our unknown today.
Yeah, he has four small cashes on Hennemob. Outside of that, we know that he's German. He was one of the unknown faces in the field. There was very few of them at the beginning of the tournament. We recognized most players, and he started using the MyStack app, and we're like, oh, who's this guy, Sven Rijkaard? And, you know, we found out who he was. He's been playing super well the whole time. It's notable that he's German, and every time you see a new guy on the super high roller scene, he tends to turn out to be German, which is kind of crazy. And our best guess is that he's an online player, and he decided to, you know, come take a shot, probably sold some pieces to this event. He did, I believe he's also a 5K live satellite winner with Morten Klein, so yeah, I mean, it's good. It's always good to see new faces in the field in these super high roller events. You tend to see, you know, the same turnover of players over and over again. So to get new guys come in and also have success like this is great.
And now he's using the MyStack Run Good, so that's quite a good thing for him. And it's good to see him go deep. Dan Sheck, of course, is also there. Scott Seaver, Sam Trickett, and the Italian favorite Mustafa Kanit, who had an amazing World Series of Poker in Vegas and also notched up so many cashes over the last probably 20 months. Donnie, give us a little more insight on Kanit, because he is the short stack, but he's not out of it just yet.
He is the short stack, but he's not going to be one of those short stack that just knits it up a ton and really, you know, sits back and waits for a big hand. He's gonna just try and, you know, find a medium holding, just get it in, double up, and then go from there. I remember he came onto the EPT scene as the IPT Player of the Year a couple of years ago, and since then he's taken the European circuit, particularly this year at the World Series. He kind of had a breakout year on a little bit of a lesser well-known scale, but he's a very good player. The Italians tend to get a knock for being not so good in poker, but he's definitely, you know, the complete opposite. He's very good. He's well respected by all these young high roller guys, and it's good to see him, you know, having some success. He did final table the 25K high roller PCA this year. That was another big, you know, performance.
And a very tough final table.
Yes, a very tough final table. He was relatively short stacked that whole time, so it was difficult for him to, you know, get things going. So we'll see if he's able to, you know, do the same, you know, sort of game plan coming in to this final table, run it up, and then, you know, go from there. When he does get chips, he's not scared to splash them around, so it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, Kanit also made some final tables online in the big scoop events, and he's just been someone who's really been tearing it up this year, so it's good to see him go deep. Let's move on to our next topic, Donnie. The EPT schedule has been released. We've seen plenty of good stops on there. One interesting thing that I want to start with is the fact that there won't be a super high roller in London, but it's been moved to Prague. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so, I mean, there was obviously a lot of things that went into the decision. We're not privy to all of them, you know, through the EPT, but I think the decision was very good. I think that, you know, these super high roller events, when there's only a few, not every EPT event has one, there's only a few of them on the various, or on the EPT schedule. I think it's good to move them around to different stops. There's never been one in Prague. I think it's going to draw, you know, a pretty good field. It may not be as big as Barcelona is here. It may not be as big as, you know, the one at PCA or the one in Monte Carlo, but it's been in London before. It's been done there. You know, people know London. They know the scene. You also have the fact of the little schedule conflict with WSB APAC, so not as many players may go to that one. So it is a smart move to move it to Prague. And Prague it's a great event. It's in the heart of the winter, around, you know, the Christmas and the festivities, and I think a lot of people will really enjoy it. You know, it's gonna grow both the regular Prague field. You know, you're gonna get a lot more notable faces that go, and in turn probably draw in some more amateur players. And it's also gonna, you know, create a new event for, you know, the Czech Republic and the Prague scene in general, which is just great. So.
Yeah, and then looking forward to the other events on the schedule. Deauville is back, of course. always a huge event in France. No super high roller there, but we do have the 100K at the PCA and the 100K Euro at Monte Carlo. And in my opinion, those are always two of the best events of the year. Donnie, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, those events are just crazy. It's almost like those two events are the new 10Ks for most people, you know, the PCA 100K and the Monte Carlo 100K. I think it's also interesting to note that the PCA is now the LEPT Grand Final, wow, which is great for that tour, you know, to be able to have a really big culminating stop, you know, in the Bahamas with everyone else, with a field that's, you know, it's regularly over 1,000 players. I think that's great to see. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I've been there several years. I like it every time. It really kicks off the calendar year for poker. This event in Barcelona kicks off the you know, the PokerNews year itself, or sorry, the poker year itself. You know, 2014, 2015. But yeah, PCA is going to be great.
Yeah. One final thing about the numbers in those events. When you look at Barcelona so far, every single event has been huge. Every single event has been breaking records. The Australs broke records. The Australs 2K looks to be huge, and also the expectations for the main event are amazing. So when you look at the schedule of the EPT this year, we could really break all the records of all the stops because all these national events are planned right in front of them. So I think that's going to be a huge thing. All right, one final thing. Let's let loose on this one a little bit. Donnie, we're talking about my first EPT with a bunch of professional players, people of the staff, and we're trying to figure out what their first experience was like, of course, here at the 100 EPT main event. Tell me, what was yours?
Season 6, right here in Barcelona, with when Carter Phillips won. It was 2009. I remember getting the call from my boss at the time, and he's like, "Hey, we need you to go to Barcelona." I was super excited. I hadn't been over to Europe in several years since I was younger. Being able to come over here for work was great. I remember it was a little bit different in terms of where the tournament was set up. We're in the kind of the conference center now. It was outside, actually in the casino area. They had all the, you know, all the table games removed.
It was hard to get around.
It was very hard to get around. I mean, you think it's close between Remko and I now. It was half this distance between the tables. No, it was great. The field was packed then. I remember Carter Phillips won, I believe, $1.3 million. Yeah, I mean, Barcelona's always been a favorite stop of mine. It kind of, you know, is close to my heart because it was my first, but also, you know, the city is super buzzing all the time. The weather's nice, it's great. You know, the people are great. I love it here.
Yeah. Well, my first EPT was in 2008 in Prague during season 5. Mr. Salvatore Bonavena managed to win the tournament. Still one of my all-time favorite final tables, where Andrew Chen seemed like he had the victory within his grasp, but then he had to battle out against 3 Italian players, and those guys were just having a jolly old good time, and they were not going anywhere. So that was a lot of fun for me. I've been around ever since and wouldn't want to miss any EPT this season as well. So yeah, there you have it. Those are our first EPT stories. If you have any first EPT stories you want to share with us, use the hashtag #MyFirstEPT and let us know on Twitter or Facebook. And that's it for this Final Table preview. Stay tuned for more coverage right here on PokerNews.com.